Yes, sir.
I have about, I don't know, maybe a dozen credit cards. I don't carry balances on them. Should I get rid of a couple of ones I don't use, or does it matter?
Do you know what your score is right now?
My credit score?
Yeah.
800.
Leave them alone. Don't touch it. Yeah, again, because you probably have some cards that have been open for a real long time, and that's fine. So I would just leave them alone because, again, sometimes closing some of those cards that you've had for a long time, that you have a good track record, you're going to possibly lower your score. So just 800, beautiful. But again, one thing I can't emphasize enough, auto pay, and get that thing set up on your credit cards where it's the auto pay for the minimum. So again, if something happens, if you end up in the hospital for God forbid, and you don't make that $24 payment, you're going to get dinged. So, yes, sir.
Why do these credit cards? I mean, they end up screwing you up pretty bad, simply because you've got a credit limit on it, and they arbitrarily go and they cut it in half, and what's happening is if, let's say, for example, let's say you've got, I don't know, let's say you got a credit card that's worth $50,000, and you've got maybe 20,000 on it, then they go and they cut your thing from 50 down to not 20, but maybe 22. Now all of a sudden that card's maxed out.
Right.
Why do they do that?
Well, that's because they're looking at, a lot of times what will happen, people might go bad on other cards or a mortgage or something like that, depending on what your situation is. And then the other credit card companies get wind of it. If you look at inquiries, credit card companies, banks do, occasionally check on your credit. And if they see information, your score has dropped, some of them will cut the limits down, or I've seen credit card companies just totally cut them off. They cut, and I've seen people, like you say it's a $50,000 credit limit, the guy's got $30,000 out, they cut him down to $20,000. Now he's getting dinged for being over the limit. And if you're, another thing about late payments too with credit cards, read the fine print. If you make maybe 1 or 2 late payments, they have the right to jack that rate up to 28, 29%, and there's no talking them down. I've had clients all the time, I've been on the phone with them, my mother was in the hospital, every little story, they just don't care. They just don't care. So, again, if you have some damaging information, the other credit cards are going to most likely.
Basically, there's no damaging credit. I mean, there's no damaging information there. Basically,
Did they lower you?
They cut them all the time. I don't know. It's because maybe they.
Do you use the cards or no?
Do I use them? You mean like?
Are they sitting totally empty? I mean, do you ever use them? You do need, and if you do have like.
Yeah, I don't use them.
Well, you know, the guy that you have 10 credit cards. You have a credit card that you don't use it at the grocery store now and then. You got to have a little activity going on it because sometimes they will cut balances because they just don't. Maybe the banks, they only a lot of times want X amount of credit out there. So if you're sitting there with $20,000 worth of credit that you haven't used, you're tying it up. A lot of times with home equity, everybody's home equity lines the last couple of years, those have a couple reasons have been slashed. Yeah. The value is number one. Or if people aren't using them, they slash them because they want that credit. They want to be able to use that for somebody else.
The other thing too are these, you go into a bank and you want to open up an account. You end up, you don't even know they're doing this. They're running your credit. They're not telling you that. And you say, okay, well, by the way, what is my credit? Well, no, then you can't have that information.
Right.
Because it's their information. Well, but you didn't tell us that you were going to run this.
A lot of times you might sign something and don't realize it that they are pulling your credit. Excuse me. Banks, you for sure they have to, you're signing something, they are pulling credit, but there's different type of pulls too. There's a soft pull, there's the hard pull that a mortgage company does. The bank might be getting just certain information. I'm not 100% sure, but you're 100% right. God forbid we ask the bank to show us the credit report. They won't. Because half the time, the guy at Chase that does it, he doesn't see it anyways. He gets a yes or no answer, so he doesn't see it. Banks do also, do people know about check systems? Have you ever heard about check systems? Checks aren't even that big anymore, because everybody has debit cards, but check systems is another type of reporting. We got a call today about it. I don't work on check systems. You bounce a check, you get reported to check systems, you're blacklisted to go open an account at any bank. You can't do it. You got to go back to whatever it was, U.S. Bank or Fifth Third, and pay that off and make sure that you get released from check systems. So, again, the way our system has changed and with technology and everything, I mean, I rarely write checks anymore. It's so great having debit cards and credit cards. We won't even, at Nationwide Credit, we won't even take a check because what's a check to us just bounces. Yes, sir.
So if you had a late fee, what's worse in their eyes, that you had a late fee or the dollar amount? It's just small, say $20, and you were late.
A late fee, the problem is, it's not the late fee, it's the 30-day late that you get on your credit report. That's
the dollar amount.
No, for example, I had a guy at, just in my office the other day, Perfect Credit, it's Home Depot. He bought a generator, some $1,400, went in there. This is something else you need to know. So I hate when people tell me, I went to Home Depot and I paid the bill. The problem is, you're gonna be, maybe you have the bill there, it's $1,400, but there might be some other charges on it. This guy didn't know about it. There was some $30 charge on it. He thought he paid the whole thing off, blew it off, and next thing you know, he's getting late on his Home Depot, plus late fees. So he called them up, they reversed the late fee, but there was like $11 left, which he, I don't know, just didn't pay attention to. He was getting late every month for it. So again, dollar amount doesn't matter, it's the late, that's the damage. Yes, sir?
I have several bank accounts and several checking accounts. When the accounts get open, sometimes they just give you a credit card. They give you a line of credit along with these accounts. And I don't, I use a few that I use, and I don't use all of them, so they'll sit before. And I lately just got notice, like, from the city bank case accounts that, oh, since you're not using that card, I'm going to drop it.
Right. That's, if you have good credit already, it probably shouldn't. You probably have a couple cards that you use mainly, is that correct?
And I never even use those cards.
I've got a, yeah. It's funny because I do the same thing. I've got a city card and I like had a statement of the card. I'm like, the heck did I get this thing?
Exactly.
And it was like through some mortgage and one of the car, I was ready to strangle this guy because obviously this is my business and I understand credit. Got a new car a couple of years ago, and next thing you know, I get the car credit card, the Visa. The guy had asked me, I said, no, I don't want it. And they sent it to me. So I was, I didn't use it. I called them, I canceled because I didn't want it. But it just got me upset that because these guys also make money. The car dealer guy, if he sells you the credit card, that's why when you go to the department stores, why do you think there was like, would you like to open a Macy's card or Nordstrom's card? They get $10 or something each, the sales guys, so that they're hot to open them. But also don't fall for that. We'll give you 10, 20% off. That gets you into that trap where you're gonna have a Macy's card, a Nordstrom's card, a JCPenney, whatever it might be, and now you got 10 credit cards and the balances become high and too many bills to pay. Yes?
If you get a card like that and you never call to activate it, does it affect anything?
That's a good question. Probably not. It's not going to affect you. I don't know. When I look at a credit report, I can't tell if you activated it or not. So I really don't know, and I don't know. Does the credit? Does the card get reported to the bureau once it's activated? Probably gets reported, and then once it's activated, it just shows as an open line. But it's probably going to show as an open line to begin with. If it doesn't get activated after a while, they will just close it on you. But again, when we look at credit reports, it doesn't say not activated yet. Yes, sir.
I've seen some consolidation in the credit industry.
Yeah.
And just like what happened to him, when certain car companies came